Hey everybody, this is RC Peck with Fearless Wealth, and I want to read you something from Seth Godin. His title is Narratives About Modernality. If we give an isolated community access to the internet, very quickly the quality of life will improve, time will be saved, research into proven solutions will produce value, and people will become connected to a larger population. Those connections will lead to productivity and learning. And then soon after, they'll become less happy, not because they're worse off, but because the dominant media narratives that arrive exist to make them feel insufficient, inadequate, or simply jealous at how green the grass is over there. Our narratives defeat our surroundings every time. So, what narrative are you listening to? Are you following? And I have four price charts I want to show you. The first one is basically it's the commodity index, the Reuters Jefferies CRB index. And of these four charts that I show you, they all are basically the entire length of the trade war. I'll show you on the chart where they start, but it's basically the trade war. If you look, or if you're listening, we have CRB here. And right where my crosshairs are is where the trade war, January 22nd, 2018 is where the trade war started with the first tweet from Trump. And the commodity index is down about 12%. Right, so what's that narrative? That narrative is saying deflation. Now, this is just trade war. I'm just taking a block of time. I'm not saying it's the right block of time, but it's a specific start time, meaning the start of the trade war and this week. And so that narrative saying things should be getting cheaper because this is commodities. Now, this isn't all commodities, right? It's most of them, right? Gold is going up, silver is going up, palladium's going up, but a lot of the major commodities are going down. Now, does that mean deflation is all over the world and there's no inflation? It's a narrative, it's a story, it's telling something. Next, I want to show you is the next narrative. This is a global snapshot of stocks. It's literally the Vanguard Total World Stock ETF. And over here on the left is where the trade war started. I'll actually put two blue vertical lines just so you can see kind of where it started. And if you look at this, it's sideways, maybe a little scary. But from trade war to today, it's only down 6%, not 16%, not 66%, not 666%. It's down 6%, right? So what's the narrative of this? The stocks of the world are saying, I don't know, collectively, right? This is global. And this ETF is about 50% US and 50% non-US stocks, right? So this narrative tells you something different about the world than the commodity narrative. This says we're just going sideways. We had a little scariness happen at the end of 2018, kind of fixed it, but we're still just kind of going sideways. Nothing good, nothing bad. And we're trying to figure out if we should break to the upside or break to the downside. That's the narrative of the global stock market. Now, there is no good price chart of the global bond market. There are domestic bonds in the US and there are international bonds. I'm going to just show domestic bonds. I looked up international and domestic, and they pretty much look exactly the same. But here you have BND. This is the Vanguard Total Bond Market ETF. And there's no dividends in this or in the previous two price charts I showed you. This is all price. That's all I'm showing you. And over here, let's just put in where, let's just find, here we go. Between my two blue vertical lines is where the trade war started. And here BND is up about 4.6%, 4.6. So the narrative of BND, now when this price goes up, it means people are getting more scared about the future. Now it's clear that BND is outperforming, that bonds are outperforming the global stock market and commodities. So we know that. But we're also looking at 4.6%, right? Now, you may have narratives in your head that were put there by other people, but 4.6% is not really a melt up. It's definitely a noticeable move, as you can see on the screen here. But what's that narrative? And what's the narrative in your brain? And who put it there? And is it really your own narrative? Or is it a narrative to make you feel insufficient and inadequate and maybe even jealous? Right? Let me make you feel inadequate and insufficient and bad and scared and worried. And then maybe swoop in and sell you a pick or an idea or a Bitcoin. Right? Whose ideas are those? And then lastly, I show you the most used currency on the planet, fiat currency. It's the US dollar. Now, this has gone up the most since the trade war. So again, I'll just show you where the trade war started between those two blue vertical lines. And what's interesting, when the trade war started, the dollar went nowhere for 2 or 3 months. But from trade war beginning to this week, the US dollar is up a little over 9%. That's interesting. So if we step away from narrative and do our best to look at verifiable, objective information without saying what's crashing or booming or happening or not happening, what we can tell is the US dollar of the 4 price charts I've shown you is the strongest black line so far, followed by US bonds, followed by international stocks. Now, I could show you US stocks, and maybe I will in a moment, just because I'm showing you US dollars or US currency and US bonds. Maybe I'll pop it back over to stocks and show you US stocks. And actually, let me do that right now, because I am talking, I think that might be a fair comparison. So US stocks from the start of the trade war are up 3.3%. So that's right behind the US bond market, right? The bond market's up 4.6%. And by the way, this price chart does not include dividends. US stock market's up 3.3%. And so basically what we have is a waiting place, a somewhere place, right? A place of major assets really deciding. Now, we know without narrative or without opinion that the US dollar has done best, because the flip side of the US dollar is the euro. So if the US dollar is higher, the euro is lower. And of the basket of currencies, the euro represents about 57%, some 60% of the US dollar. Counter, like how the US dollar is measured or what it's measured against. But that's where we are, right? This is what we have. Commodities are asleep or dying or deflating. The dollar is going higher. I can tell you the US economy would probably like the dollar to weaken so we could export some things at a cheaper price. But this is what we have. And so this conversation with you is not so much what to do, but is whose are those thoughts, right? And have those thoughts that have been put in you, have that narrative, right? That media narrative. Are you feeling insufficient? Are you losing sleep? Are you feeling inadequate? Are you feeling worried? Because you don't have to. There is a better way, but it's certainly not going to come from the dominant media narratives out there, like Seth Godin was talking about. And so just think as you step back and you think and you maybe watch these and just kind of have a sober view, right? Because when we're jacked up on things are really scary, things are going to end, everyone's going to get screwed, I'm going to lose everything, that's not a sober conversation, right? There's no sobriety in that. There's a lot of worry. And I'm not diminishing you for being worried, but who put those thoughts there? And so as you go through this weekend, think of the squiggly lines and also think whose narrative is driving your investment decisions. And it's very likely it's not even yours. It's somebody else's, right? Because if you've had your money 100% in cash, you're biased to want cash to go higher and the market to go lower. If you have 100% stock market, you're biased for the market to go higher. These are our biases. It's fine to be biased. It's like a prejudice, right? All humans are prejudiced. So it's hard to step back, especially when your money's on the line. I get that, right? Because we naturally want certainty. That's why when a pick of the month newsletter service sells certainty, or when a big box advisor sells certainty, our critter brain, that brainstem of ours, right? It goes, oh, I want certainty. I want certainty. This is also the reason why people like being 100% right or 100% wrong, 100% in or 100% out, because there's a certainty to that. And it's that old part of the brain that creates that certainty that's actually hurting us. So thanks so much, guys, for being in my world and just kind of taking a sober look at those 4 price charts with even a very almost melodic tone in talking about these, with the most kind of even keel tone I could to not get excited or hyped or anything, to just think like, where are those narratives coming from? I appreciate you guys being in my world, and this is just another step in helping you protect and grow your portfolio. And until next time, this is RC Peck.